Okay, so it's time for me to actually sit down and give you my full review of the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. I did a kind of video showing my first thoughts when I watched it a few days ago. When the day it came out, I had to get it the day it came out and watch it, and I was so excited, and it lived up to my expectations. But it was one of those things where I was really nervous throughout. That oh, what if it isn't great? What if what if little bits don't work? And I felt almost like a like a friend watching it, even though I've never met him and probably never will. But the way that James Rolfe, the nerd character, the way he kind of makes videos and has created this online kind of presence for himself and this fan base that he's acquired over the years. It's very personal, I think, and especially the documentaries he's released, like Cinemassacre 200 and The Dragon in My Dreams. You really get a feel for who this guy is, and you almost do feel like you're his friend, because there's so much accessibility there to him as a person online. So I did feel almost like a friend watching it, like, oh, I just hope it's good, but those kind of worries were just immediately thrown out the window for me, because it's just an incredible achievement. It was such an ambitious film. When I think about it, like on paper, after I've seen it, I can't understand how they would have even thought to try and do that. I mean, it's crazy, especially the budget, which was I think just over $300,000, which was funded through I think it's Indiegogo, which I contributed to. I've donated some money, and so again, I'll also feel like a tiny piece of ownership to it. And I was wondering throughout the film, like, I wonder where my $50 went. It was probably just went on, like, 10% of catering on one day or something. I mean, but nonetheless, it was like, a part of the money that I've worked for is there somewhere, and that was cool. Or then again, part of my money might have gone to the tax that they had to pay. I don't know, but it was just cool. But the film itself, the review, I should get to the review. Oh god. I could talk about this film for so long, but I want to keep this fairly short. It stars James Rolfe as the nerd character, who he's been playing for 10 years now, since 2004. 2006 was brought to YouTube and just blew up. I think that anyone coming into this film who's never seen the Angry Video Game Nerd web series probably won't enjoy it as much as maybe someone like me, or a fan. I'll just lower the camera a second. I think it works. I think someone can enjoy it. He does a great job setting up the character at the beginning of the film. In fact, an amazing job of setting up who the nerd is. But I think a lot of the references and a lot of the familiarity with him as a character, the nerd himself, comes from the web series and being a fan. And this is really a film for the fans. Again, as they say, it's a film for fans, made by fans. It's it is really the ultimate fan film, which I think Doug Walker said, and I agree with completely. The special effects in the film play an important part, and I'll get to that. But the story stars the nerd, and he's being bugged by fans, and has literally been bugged by fans in real life for years to review the Atari game from the early 80s, E.T., which is reportedly one of the worst games of all time, and it's a very highly anticipated review. He's teased it in many of the nerd episodes, but we finally found out a few years ago that was going to be the focus of the movie. And the real life myth, which actually was proved to be true this year, which is crazy. They filmed it 2 years ago and been working on like the special effects for 2 years, but this year they actually proved the real life story to be true. And the story is that Atari lost so much money producing the E.T. game, and it was so horrible that they recalled like all of the cartridges and dumped like millions of them in like a landfill in the desert. And all these cartridges were somewhere out in the desert, and apparently they dug it up and found like hundreds of thousands of them. But they also found other games as well. But it's a cool story, and it was turned into a great story in the movie. So the nerd, he's got like this sidekick, who I thought was going to be kind of annoying. When I saw the trailer, his sidekick, the young black guy, I thought, maybe he's a little bit, just like one of those kind of just the buddies that is kind of a bit stereotypical in the film. But I actually enjoyed his performance. I thought he fit really well into what the whole film was, and he did a good job with his kind of role as the nerd's kind of sidekick, I guess you could say. And he's like, come on nerd, you got to review E.T. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it, because the nerd doesn't want the fans to be subjected to how horrible the game is and all this. And the movie really hinges on that the nerd cares about his fans so much that he doesn't want them to you know, to be subjected to how bad this game is and how awful it is and everything, and that's kind of his dilemma throughout the film, is trying to just get fans to not talk about E.T. anymore and get them to forget about it. And he thinks that the landfill story is rubbish as well. And then the very opening of the film, which was fantastic by the way, some amazing visual effects to a great kind of almost like an animated opening sequence that kind of showed the story of the E.T. game failing. And there's this woman, this young woman, who is trying to appeal to these executives that they should make E.T. 2, a sequel to the first E.T. game, and make it horrible, and then get the nerd to review it so that people will want to play it because it's bad. So there's this whole kind of reverse psychology thing where, you know, we're going to market something as being terrible, and because of the immense influence of the angry video game nerd, people are going to want to buy it just because he says it's bad. And he can't understand this, and he's like, no, this is the wrong thing, but that's kind of the way it goes. And it is kind of a true thing, and it's a very cool little almost satire on the actual fandom of the nerd, I think, that people do want to play these games because they're so bad just because the nerd did them. I'm one of those people. I haven't really done it, but, you know, part of me always thinks, oh, I should play that just to see how bad it is, considering he just did a video about it and it looks terrible and it'd be fun to just check it out. You know, I like that twist on it. And so this young woman who works, I forget the characters' names, but she, you know, she basically she goes to the nerd and his friend, and she's kind of masquerading as a nerd herself, and she's like, yeah, let's go and you know, I want you to review E.T. 2, and the nerd wants to go to the desert and he wants to prove that there's no landfill, there's no E.T. cartridges anywhere. So she gets money from this company, and they go on a road trip in this van, the Nerdmobile, to the desert, and try to disprove the whole theory. And then they kind of stumble on something much larger, and what I thought was really cool was that they're in New Mexico, and, you know, they're there to make the video to say, okay, we're going to prove that there's no E.T. cartridges, and, you know, we're looking for E.T. And then you cut to these kind of government kind of, you know, military type people who are monitoring everything, and they're like, it says they're looking for E.T., an extraterrestrial, and they think they're looking for actual aliens, and the whole Roswell thing is brought into it. And then that in itself is brought into the larger story, which I thought was really clever, really smart, really funny as well. I'll talk about that very briefly at the end. I'll go into spoilers for people who have seen it, but I love the way that story was really clever, really well played out, I thought. Now, you know, the gags in the film, they are fast, you know, they keep coming. There's lots of gags, lots of little kind of cleverly written lines, more kind of in-your-face gags, like there's a shot in the trailer of the nerd just kind of doing the classic kind of spewing, you know, with the just absolute projectile vomiting into someone's face. There's things like that, which for me is kind of essential to what the nerd character is, just this kind of gross out humor. But I find the funnier things in the littler moments and just these offhand lines, which I think are really well written by James Rolfe and Kevin Finn. And I think James Rolfe is he's got a great comedic mind, and he can really make things funny, and a lot of that is in this film. And I laughed out loud, I had a full belly laugh, maybe 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 times. There were some really funny lines and really funny moments. There's also kind of sight gags, you know, visual things that you can pick up on, and just references, and there's loads of cameos from people who are kind of famous within the kind of bubble that the nerd James Rolfe is famous in. You know, maybe not everyone would get it, but, you know, people like, well, I won't say who, I'll leave that till the end. But some great cameos and stuff like that. Now, the production values. There's a lot of CGI used, there's a lot of green screen used, and you know, you can tell where, and I can tell where it was meant to not be noticed, and I can tell where it was meant to be noticed. There's some parts where it's meant to be cheesy. There's lots of miniature work, which again is it's not meant to fool you into thinking that it looks real, but it's to kind of let you in on it, to be like, you know how that we're making a film, you know that we're doing these special effects, but you're seeing that this is a miniature car that's getting blown up. And you can tell that, just like you can in a movie like Godzilla. But you know, hopefully the idea is, I think, and the intention is that you would appreciate it more because it's real, because they did blow up a small car, as opposed to just getting a CGI model and just blowing that up. Because, for one thing, I just watched The Expendables 3 a few weeks ago, and there's a scene where Sylvester Stallone walks away from this helicopter, and he goes like this, and clicks a button, and the helicopter behind him blows up, and it looks like a video game. It was absolutely terrible. I mean, they should have just like cut away from it or something and just shown like a flash. it was awful. But you know, in this movie, there's lots of miniature work, and towards the end as well, just some amazing practical effects, I thought. Just great stuff. And there's lots of different effects throughout, and it's an offbeat movie. There's a lot of weird humor in it. You know, not everything hit for me. You know, it was definitely hit and miss at times, but it was more hit than it was miss. And I think it was a bit too long. But that being said, the pacing was great. The editing was fantastic. I just felt like at times maybe, you know, it was taking a bit too long for the nerd to turn that kind of mindset around, to change his view on things, you know, because it just kept building and building, and it was just staying in the same place for quite a while. But everything that was going on was entertaining, you know. I just feel like maybe his character motivations could have switched a little earlier, or there could have been a bit more dimension to it. But again, this is, you know, a character that is not really that well fully formed in the web series. He is what he is, and we don't really know much about him as a person or a character other than that he reviews these games. So it was hard to kind of, you know, really go too much into it, I think. And again, ultimately, this is just a film to have fun with, and this is just me really nitpicking. But the editing and the pacing was spot on. I thought was really well done, actually, the editing. The music by Bear McCreary is fantastic. I mean, he's an amazing composer. He, I think most famously does the music for The Walking Dead. He's friends with James. He did an amazing score for the film that uses like actual kind of bits of, you know, old console noises and stuff. And there's a great article about it on his blog, which you can find if you search for it. And yeah, really interesting stuff, actually. Great score. Some great side characters. The villain of the film, one of the villains of the film, this general who is just awesome. I forget his name now. I don't want to get it wrong, so I won't say it. But his character is just hilarious, and he's straight out of like a really fun kind of 80s, 90s movie, I think. And he was just awesome, really funny. Provided a lot of laughs, and just had a great character. Like he apparently, you know, his legs have been blown off because he's kind of in this kind of mini tank that starts around his waist, and he's kind of, you know, got a little joystick that he uses to kind of go around and stuff. And he was a really funny character, as well as one of his hench women, McButter. I remember her name because it was so funny, and she's just hilarious. I thought she did a really great job being this just total bitch, but like where her character goes is really funny. Yeah. Anyone else I can talk about? No, I think I'll leave it at that. You know, overall, I really loved it. I like the way that it ended, and I'll leave this now for anyone who hasn't seen the film. But definitely go check it out if you're a fan of the nerd, of course. It's a great time. It's really fun and just incredible in scope, and just really a love letter to the fans, I think, and to a lot of things that James Rolfe loves himself, and I'm sure Kevin Finn as well, who I don't know too much about, but it really is just almost a big homage to so many different things, but it's also its own thing, and it just works really well for me. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it would be like an 8 out of 10 movie. For me, it's definitely like a 9 out of 10, and I can't wait to watch it again and again. Can't wait for the Blu-ray, all the special features. I'm going to love all that stuff. So there you go, there's my review, and I'll now talk about the spoiler stuff. So, of course, towards the end, you know, you have all this monster movie kind of inspired madness going on with this kind of guy in a suit, Deathmossis, or I don't even know how you pronounce it. It's just weird, this kind of demigod almost, who created God and Satan, who comes out of Mount Fuji, and it's just ridiculous but awesome at the same time. And when he's, you know, trashing the Golden Gate Bridge, and he's punching a hole through these buildings in Las Vegas and ripping apart the fake Eiffel Tower, and it's all real miniatures, and you can tell, and it looks so fucking awesome. It's just, I love that they went that extra mile. I love that they pushed it further and did real miniatures, or bigatures almost, that just looked fantastic on screen, and worked so well with a lot of the CGI that was going on throughout that stuff. But some of that was just incredible. A great moment for me was when, and a ridiculous moment was when the nerd got in this little kind of spaceship and flew down that famous rock that's been used in so many films and TV shows, and flies into Area 51, and his little buddy, the black guy, falls off the rocks, and it's just a real simple thing, but it was clearly a dummy, so it wasn't like a digital shot, it was a real dummy, like bouncing off the rocks. And there's actually another gag earlier on in the film where he falls out of his house, so that was kind of a cool running gag, but it just looked really cool. And I love little practical touches where you can tell that it's, you know, it's not real, but it just adds something more to it, you know. Again, there was a lot of miniature things blowing up towards the end of the film, which was really funny, and a lot of that stuff. And then when he gets to Area 51, and there's some great scenes in there, you know, the rectal scan gag was hilarious. And then the alien he finds, which was a stroke of genius, because it's kind of, the way that they take the ET game, and it's like, this isn't really a game. It's something that a guy who was, you know, privy to all the Roswell information of this actual alien landing, programmed the game as like a chart of Area 51 so someone could break in, and you know, the ET character looks like the actual alien that landed in Roswell, and the spaceship stuff with the tin foil, which is really hokey kind of plot point, but it works as well and is really cool. It's just some great little touches in this film, and the alien was great. I felt like the voice of the alien was a little low in the mix, maybe. Like I couldn't hear him as well as I would have liked. But I thought he looked great because it was a real. It wasn't digital. It was a real puppet, and there was different versions of it, and just the way it moved and everything, I think was really cool, and I just enjoyed it. I thought it was a funny character. Would have actually liked to see more of him, to be honest. And then the way the film ended with the Atari joystick coming down and the nerd grabbing it, and then the crowd going nuts, and then, you know, that's the end. I thought that was brilliant. But then we actually get the ET review, which is what everyone wanted, and it's during the credits, which for me was a masterstroke. It was a genius move, because I don't think it would have worked in the middle of the film, the beginning of the film, the end of the film. During the credits, it was perfect, because it just doesn't lend itself too well to a narrative, you know. I just don't feel like it would have worked as well if it had been just at the end of the film and then the credits. It was a much more impactful ending to end with him grabbing the stick and the crowd going nuts. Directed by, you know, James Rolfe, Kevin Finn. And then we get the credits with the review in the corner, and I thought that was great, and just how it all ended after that as well was brilliant. Great move, I thought, and yeah, pretty cool. Only thing I could say actually is that I really wish there was a full-on nerd just rage in this film. Like a couple of episodes in the nerd series, there's over 100 episodes now, but there's a couple where he just absolutely loses his shit. And there's only a few of those moments where he proper rages out, and there wasn't any of those in the film, and I would have liked to have seen that, but that's just really nitpicking. Overall, again, loved the film, thought it was great. The cameos were great, you know, Pat the NES Punk, Keith Apicary was in there. You know, Lloyd Kaufman, I thought was great. You know, Doug Walker, the nostalgia critic. Yeah, awesome film. That's my full thoughts on it. Yeah, I definitely can't wait to watch it again. And for me, it's an important film for independent filmmakers, but not just like independent filmmakers who make films, you know, with limited budgets, but people who make the films with budgets that were raised outside of a studio system and, you know, made completely independently and released completely independently. You know, I just think for anyone who's aspiring to make films, it's an inspiration. But of course, it is one of those rare things, because he has found fame and was able to have this fan base that allowed him to make the film. You know, I'm going to get into this actually. There's people who've been commenting on the film online, which has really pissed me off, and they're saying, you know, oh, James Rolfe is, you know, he's a money whore and all this, and you know, the moment he started making money off the nerd, it went downhill from there, you know. And I hate that stuff, because they've been saying, oh, the fact that he does a nerd episode once every 3 months is ridiculous, and the fact that he doesn't do one every like or two a month or whatever like he used to. I mean, if you're truly a fan of him, then you should know. You know, you should know the deal. I mean, the deal is pretty obvious. I mean, he's talked about it in videos before. It's very apparent that he puts so much effort into everything he does online, you know, Cinemassacre. It makes him money, but it's his job, you know, and he's living the dream, but it's not easy either, you know. It takes so much time to make one of those nerd episodes. And me, you know, I'm someone who works with video production and stuff, and of course I do YouTube videos. And I could make things as elaborate as nerd episodes, maybe not as good, but as elaborate and with as much time gone into it. And I know how that would be done, and so I can appreciate how long it takes to make those videos. And you got to remember, you know, he's married, he just had a kid, you know, recently, and this was all during the craziness of him moving, you know, from one side of America to the other, to Los Angeles, to make the movie. I mean, you can tell how much weight he lost, presumably through stress. I mean, you know, he said it was an absolute nightmare, you know, but he's glad that it was done now. But you can tell he lost a lot of weight when he was making that film, and it's gone back on now because he's finished it, I think. But you know, you can just tell that it was a toll on him, you know, mentally and physically. And you make a film, and then you've got all this stuff to do. Just look at the timeline of the production of the film. It shows you how much went into it, and how much he's also putting into other things like Monster Madness, where there's like a full video every day of October. He's done it every year. I mean, it's a crazy amount of work. And you know, again, he's raising the door. You know, I mean, people who are kind of getting really pissy about the fact that he's not making nerd episodes on a regular basis, I think just really don't get it. You know, it really pisses me off. But then of course, you know, it seems to me there's always a polar opposite of people on there, you know, on comments and cinemassacre.com or the YouTube videos where it's like, you know, oh, he's sold out and all that, oh, he makes money off it, oh, what a bastard, you know, oh, he's not, you know, he doesn't love his fans. Doesn't love his fans. Look at the movie and tell me he doesn't love his fans, because that was for us, and for us only, really. I mean, sure, other people might watch and enjoy it, but that's really for the fans. And you know, you gotta hold your hands up and say that was a great job. And then there's also people who just go absolutely nuts and say everything he does is, you know, everything he touches turns to gold, and that's not, you know, realistic to kind of put that on someone. But you know, I guess that's just the internet, really. That's just the internet, isn't it? People are like that, you know. They're either 100% in that direction, 100% in that direction. There's no meeting in the middle for some people, which is a shame. But it bugs me because a lot of people who are kind of criticizing him weren't just these trolls. I mean, they were very well written, you know, comments and things where they seem to really think about it, but it just didn't hold any water for me, honestly. You know, oh, he got his fans to donate the money to make the film, couldn't do it himself. Hey, you know, people wouldn't have donated if they didn't want to see it. I donated money because I wanted to see the film, you know. I mean, I knew that my, you know, meager donation wouldn't make much of a difference either way, but I wanted to contribute as much as I'm sure thousands of others did, and that all built up into the money that, you know, the movie was made on. And I think, you know, if fans want to see it and they want to contribute, that's up to them. And, you know, it's not like he was begging for it, you know. It was just thrown out there as a way to make up some of the budget, and it ended up, you know, as far as I'm aware, providing all the budget. So this has gone on far too long now, but thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this review of the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. I'm sure I'll review the Blu-ray when it comes out, or whenever I get it, because I can't wait to dive into those special features, and yeah, it's going to be really cool. There you go, that's my review, my thoughts, both spoilers and not, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
He says he's really cool, but I think he's a tool. Even though I'm sure he's a quite nice guy, really. He's a quite nice guy, really.